back to my channel. Annoyingly, I tried to film a moment ago and I forgot to delete quite a lot of other videos, so my video just ran out on me, so I'm going to have to film again. So hopefully this time will actually work. Before I get started, I just want to mention, obviously you know the situation right now with Corona, and obviously it's very stressful. Everyone's finding it stressful, but particularly if you're autistic or mental health problems, obviously it goes without saying, you know, the stress is magnified, like, you know, 100-fold, because you're already at a stressed level anyway, so it's obviously adding extra stress onto your already high level of stress. So obviously it's going to impact you even more than, say, non-autistic, because obviously everyone's stressed right now, but if you've already got existing stresses, then it's obviously going to be even more of a problem. So I don't want to talk about that today, but I might do a video another time maybe on how I'm coping with it. But I just wanted to let you know that that's kind of the reason why I haven't maybe not been responding to your comments as frequently. I will be getting onto them, I will be responding, but with all the routine changes and everything, obviously, like, it's quite stressful at the moment, so I haven't had as much energy as I normally do to kind of like read through comments and stuff like that. But I will get to them. But I'm going to carry on filming. It might not be like on the same day every week. I'm trying to keep it on more or less the same day every week, but with all the other things going on, it's a little bit harder to do that, but I'm going to try my hardest. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you. So, yeah, my ears are really blocked at the moment, so yeah, so I just wanted to say that if I'm kind of not like, I'm trying to speak as coherently as I can, but my ears are really blocked at the moment. I'm not sure why. I need to get them syringed or something, but I don't want to go to the doctors at the moment because of Corona, so I'll have to wait. But yeah, anyway, I just want to say that just in case if I'm speaking a little bit, I'm trying to speak as coherently as possible basically, but it's difficult because my ears are a bit blocked. Okay, so what I'm saying right now, I wanted to talk to you a bit about compensation in autism spectrum disorders, compensation basically, and now compensation is basically a subcomponent of the broader umbrella concept of camouflaging. Camouflaging is the broader umbrella concept, and that's to do with autistic people trying to blend into society so that people don't notice the fact that they're autistic. And that encompasses masking and compensation. I've been taking lots of notes on this because I've been reading a lot about it lately and I find it really interesting. And I've been taking notes on it on this lovely notebook here. I got this from Fabrax. I just love it. I just love this notebook. It's like really shiny. I'll put the links to the articles below so you can go and check them out yourself. But the articles that I'm going to be essentially sort of reading and commenting from, and this might have to be done over several videos because I've got a lot to talk about on this, is from ScienceDirect.com, Neuroscience and Biobehavioural Reviews, Volume 80, September 2017, Conceptualising Compensation in Neurodevelopmental Disorders by Lucy Ann Livingston and Francesca Happe. And the second one is The Lancet, Volume 6, Issue 9, September 2019, Compensatory Strategies Below the Behavioural Surface in Autism by Lucy Livingston and Happe. So they're the two articles that I'm going to be kind of like sort of quoting from. So I've been reading about this because I find it really interesting, and I wanted to try and like figure it out more to try and like understand it on a sort of like personal level. Because I'm kind of like aware I do some of this to some extent, but I don't kind of really understand it, and it still confuses me, like the difference between masking and compensation. But apparently there is a difference between the two. They are related, but there is apparently a difference between the two. Masking is a lot more simple and basic than compensation, and it's to do with the suppression of autistic behaviours. It's to do with the regulation and control of existing behaviours. And this isn't autism specific because non-autistics mask as well. It's not specific to autism. So an example might be, say, like anyone, autistic or non-autistic, might withhold saying something that they might deem to be a bit like controversial, so that they don't get into a situation that might cause conflict. Maybe it might be like, basically we all have things we do in private we don't do in public, and that's the case whether or not you're autistic. So it's not unique to autism, but obviously if you are autistic, and I'm talking here about people with autism who, like myself, who like kind of like, I guess like are kind of like have more awareness of what's like expected stuff, because obviously if someone's got like a severe learning disability or something like that, they're not going to have that awareness. So I'm talking about people with autism who essentially like are aware of these things. But if you are in that category and you're autistic, you tend to obviously like mask a lot more than non-autistic, simply because you've got more to hide, and it's more, a lot more, 10 times more, 100 times more exhausting and intense, obviously, than if you're non-autistic. But everyone does it. So I guess like an example of masking for like me personally might be when I'm on my own. If you were to see me on my own, say, I don't know, if there was some kind of like camera or something, I was portraying what, broadcasting what I do to the outside world, you might a lot of the time see me go like that, or like, I don't know, like I often tiptoe walk. I would walk around the kitchen on my tippy toes, kind of like, just got lots of energy, like shaking my arms maybe, I don't do that all the time, but I do it. Sometimes I get like this kind of like just urge to do it, and it just come out of nowhere, and I'll be like doing that. And when I'm in public, like in certain social situations, like I don't socialise that often, so in actual fact, in my case, I don't actually have to mask that often, simply because I'm on my own most of the time. But when I am in social situations, even when I'm with my support worker, I feel obliged to mask actually. I think it's just because like I don't know, it kind of makes you feel awkward, and like you kind of like, I don't know, you just kind of, it kind of is an awkward situation if you're kind of like engaging in behaviours that might look a bit, I don't know, different. Because you sort of want to put on this front, I guess. It's like a protective front. So obviously I'll still have the same amount of energy, but I won't be doing those things. And I think, masking can also include, not just a suppression of behaviours, but it can also include things like smiling a bit more, or like nodding to express interest, some more like pro-social behaviours that you might do anyway at times, but it's kind of like making a concerted effort to do them a bit more than maybe is natural, to kind of like, to kind of fit in a bit more. But it is simple and basic. Whereas compensation is a bit more elaborate than masking, because it involves active strategies to support appearing like non-autistic, active strategies. There is a bit of a debate as to whether compensation and masking are truly separate, or are they actually both kind of the same thing, as is masking also sort of like a form of compensation, because that's what I find quite hard to understand, because it's quite hard to separate the two in my head, because there is a great deal of overlap. But I think essentially it does exist on the spectrum in a way. It's just that compensation, you could argue, is a more elaborate form of masking. It's not like, maybe it's not like a simple divide between masking and compensation. It's just that compensation is a bit more elaborate and involves a bit more in the way of intellect and cognition than, say, masking. So maybe it exists along the scale. Both masking and compensation are both masking and compensation mean that there is a discrepancy between the person's outward behaviour, so what other people see, and the underlying internal like cognitive difficulty. So a person who is masking and compensating well might appear to someone who doesn't understand autism and stuff like this. They might, even someone who does understand autism might be fooled actually, at least for a short period of time, that the person appears totally non-autistic. And then when a person says that they have autism, the person will be like, what are you on about? Because they're expecting an autistic person behaving in some way, and this person is not behaving in that way because they're masking. But inside, the person still has this really fundamental problem understanding people, which is there, but it's not, because the person's appearing non-autistic, that gets overlooked. So as I said, carrying on from that, so there are different types of compensation as well. So it goes back to what I was saying about how masking and compensation maybe exist along a kind of a line, beginning with masking and then moving on to compensation. But even once you get into compensation, you get varying degrees of complexity. You get so as I say, so masking is about suppressing behaviour, and that's simple and very simple, automatic and inflexible. If you're masking, you can't really. It's kind of just a kind of almost like a rote thing, like it's a mechanical thing. I think I do predominantly mask more than compensate. I get the feeling I do predominantly mask, which is probably part of the reason why I still don't really have no idea how to make friends and stuff, because I haven't quite kind of like, to me it does feel very mechanical, it does feel very rote, it's almost maybe a bit like muscle memory. That's what my support worker actually said, and I think that was quite a good way of describing it. She said it's maybe a bit like muscle memory, like obviously if you do something often enough, you kind of like, your brain kind of, it's become a kind of like a rote, repetitive thing that you do, that you kind of automatically tune into, like, but it's automatic, it's rote. It doesn't mean you've bypassed the actual difficulty. I know I certainly haven't, but I can mask pretty well thanks to years upon years of repetitively doing it. So I think I predominantly mask. So the next level one for masking, and obviously, is compensation. And there was differences in the depth of compensation. There's both shallow compensation, which is the most basic form of compensation. That's like only slightly more advanced than masking, but it's kind of quite similar to masking. It's not much of a difference. And then there's deep compensation, and deep compensation is the most sophisticated form of camouflage of all, and it's argued that autistics who are capable of deep compensation are more likely to be successful because they've effectively found a way to work around the internal cognitive problems through an alternative route. So they've essentially worked out how to understand other people. They've worked out how to understand other people so that they can essentially emulate non-autistics. It's just that, but their brains have worked it out according to a different route. So their brain is still autistic, but they've worked it out along a different route. But that means they do have the understanding, but it obviously comes at the cost of a great deal of exhaustion and maybe potentially things like, I don't know, again, like breakdowns and all sorts, and prone to mental health problems potentially. But for ones who are capable of doing it to a deep enough level, are a lot more likely to be successful, at least on a non-autistic level. That doesn't mean that that success is going to make them happy necessarily, but they do have the toolkit available to them to be able to do that just via an alternative route. Now, I definitely haven't got to that level, because although I can compensate to a small extent, from what I've read, it's at a very basic, shallow level, because I essentially have no idea what other people. I really still struggle with understanding other people. I think particularly for me, because I was thinking about this earlier today actually, I think the main reason I struggle to understand people is, in my case, and I'm pretty sure this is what it is, I've got really slow processing. So when you're in a social situation, all the information is coming at you very, very quickly. People are talking, you have to process what they're saying, you have to process their face, everything like that, sort of visual information, and also the auditory information, because obviously, as you know, I've been tested, and my processing speed is exceptionally low. I mean, it's in the kind of extremely intellectually low range of functioning, which compared to my high verbal IQ is quite a big discrepancy. And I think that's because I'm so slow to process the information in a social situation. The information is very fast. And I just can't process it fast enough to make sense of it, about what the other person, So I think that's one of the main reasons. Again, also, I'm really rubbish at understanding emotions, and my emotional competency is really poor. Emotionally constipated, basically. I mean, I can understand extreme emotions, but that's it. All that, most emotions I have no understanding of, and so that means obviously it's really hard for me to connect with other people because I'm not on the same wavelength as them. I'm missing out on that understanding of their emotional stuff because I don't get it. It's all intellect for me. Even my OCD is more about thoughts and emotions. I don't understand. I don't really have. I don't. It's a language I do not really understand. So I think that sort of the poor social emotional understanding and the fact that I have really poor processing, I think that's probably the main reason why I really struggle socially. I think that must be it. I was thinking about it earlier and it makes sense that would be why. And so I haven't managed to get to that deeper level of compensation. I haven't figured out how to form an alternative route to understanding other people's heads, basically. I've got a very limited understanding, but that's based on a lot of reading and intellectual analysis, and it doesn't help me on real-time social settings. I might be able to spend a long time trying to intellectually grapple with it, but I can't put that into action. I can't make it work I can't make it work when I'm with people, because when I'm with people, it's all fast paced, and I can't do it. I can't act fast enough. I can't form that connection. So yeah, so that's why I think for me, I can do the masking, but I can't keep it up for that long. It's very basic. It doesn't help me make friends. I haven't got to that level. It doesn't really help me understand relationships. I really struggle making and maintaining friendships, and it doesn't help me really understand people, but it's like muscle memory. I can do it on a very basic, rote level. So that's, I want to move on to the next video now, because I want to carry on talking about the different types of compensation. So moving on to video number 2 now.